They won't tell you this at the doctor's office, but independence doesn't disappear all at once. It slips away in the quiet moments. When someone starts choosing your meals for you, when you stop reaching for the top shelf, when the remote is just out of reach, and you decide it's not worth getting up. But here's the truth most people never hear. Staying independent after 70 isn't about strength or stamina. It's about strategy. You don't have to run marathons or climb mountains to keep your freedom. What you need, what you deserve, are the daily tools that help you stay in control of your life, your body, and your choices. And if you've ever looked around and quietly asked yourself, is this it for me? Then stay with me, because we're going to open some doors that most people don't even know are still unlocked. Now, this video isn't about unrealistic advice. It's about small, powerful shifts that protect your dignity and give you the kind of life where you still get to decide how your day begins and ends. We're going to walk through a handful of habits and mindset changes that make independence not only possible, but sustainable well into your 70s, 80s, and even 90s. Let's start with something that sounds simple, but is secretly one of the strongest predictors of long-term independence: movement. Not just exercise, movement. Intentional daily movement. You don't need a gym membership or fancy equipment. What you need is a commitment to keep your body involved in your own life. That means standing when it's easy to sit, stretching when you'd rather rest, taking the stairs when no one's watching. I remember a woman named Louise, 78 years old. She never had a formal workout routine, never did yoga or cardio, but every morning she opened her blinds, stepped out into her garden and pulled weeds. She moved rocks. She watered by hand. That was her ritual, her way of reminding the world and herself that her body still worked for her, that she was still in charge. When you stop moving, even just a little, you invite your independence to shrink. Joints stiffen, muscles fade. Tasks you once handled without thinking suddenly require help. And once help becomes a habit, your freedom quietly becomes optional. Now here's the second thing, maybe the most overlooked secret to independence: making decisions. You'd be amazed how often older adults are talked around instead of talked to. You're asked if you need help, but not asked what you want. And if you're not careful, you start to believe that's normal. You begin deferring, nodding, going along to make things easier. But whatever you think is best chips away at your sense of agency. Let me be blunt. Staying independent means claiming your voice, even in the small things. Choose your breakfast. Pick your clothes. Say no to things that don't feel right. Say yes to what still excites you. A man I once met, Harold, had lost mobility in one leg, but still insisted on planning every meal with his caregiver. Not because he was picky, but because he wanted to stay engaged with his life. He'd say, as long as I choose what's on my plate, I know I still matter. And that's exactly the point. You matter. Your choices matter. And every time you make one, especially when it's easier not to, you strengthen the muscles that no doctor can measure. The ones tied to identity, purpose, pride. So if you're watching this thinking, I used to be more active, I used to be more involved, then let me gently say this. It's not too late. Your independence isn't behind you. It's wherever you decide to re-engage. Even if that means just standing during a phone call or choosing your own outfit for the day. Start there. And while we're here, let me say this too, because it's important. Independence is not about pretending you don't need help. It's about choosing how and when that help shows up. It's about directing your own story, not being written out of it. And that begins with movement and decisions. One wakes up your body. The other reminds you that you're still in the driver's seat. Now that we've explored the power of movement and the importance of decision-making, let's take a breath and keep going. One thing that surprises people more than anything else: independence isn't just physical. It's emotional, it's mental, it's deeply social. And the next piece of the puzzle, maybe the one we least expect, has everything to do with connection. I want you to think for a second. Who did you talk to yesterday? Not just a passing hello. I mean, really talk to. A conversation where you shared something about your day or asked someone about theirs. For many people over 70, the answer is no one, not because they don't want connection, but because the world gets quiet. Friends move away, family gets busy, phone calls get shorter. And when those conversations stop, something inside starts to quiet down too. Your voice, your opinions, your stories, they start to feel less important. And when you start to feel invisible, your confidence fades with it. But here's the secret. Connection is a muscle, and just like your legs or your grip, it needs to be used to stay strong. Independence isn't just doing things by yourself. It's knowing you're still part of something, still valued, still invited in. There was a man named Ray who lived in the same apartment complex for nearly 30 years. After his wife passed, he stopped attending weekly dinners with his neighbors, said he didn't feel like being around people. But after a few months, he noticed something odd. He started forgetting the little things, dates, names, what day of the week it was. It wasn't dementia, it was isolation, he told me later. It wasn't my memory that was fading, it was my reason to remember. Human beings are built for interaction, and if your world is shrinking, you have to fight for connection. That might mean calling a friend you haven't spoken to in years. It might mean joining a local group, even if it's just a small reading circle at the library. It might even mean striking up a conversation with someone at the coffee shop, just to remind yourself that your voice still matters. And if you're thinking, what if nobody reaches back? Here's the truth. Sometimes they won't, but often they will. People are starving for real conversation, for wisdom, for warmth. And when you extend your hand, even metaphorically, most people don't pull away. They lean in. Now let's talk about something most people brush off until it's too late. Mental sharpness. Not intelligent, not solving puzzles or doing brain games. I mean the kind of clarity that lets you make decisions, navigate the grocery store, remember your appointments, and keep track of your medications. That kind of independence. And no, it's not about downloading a brain training app. It's about engaging your mind in meaningful ways, reading something new, learning a skill you've never tried before, asking why something works, not just accepting that it does. Your brain thrives on curiosity, not comfort. One of the smartest women I ever met was 81 years old and decided to learn how to play the piano from scratch. Her hands were slow, her timing was off, but she said something I'll never forget. It's not about becoming a musician. It's about reminding myself that I can still grow. And that was it. That mindset, that refusal to sit still inside her own mind, that's the real secret. Because when your mind is active, everything else sharpens with it. Your sense of time, your sense of self, even your balance improves because your brain is sending clearer signals to your body. So if you find yourself falling into routine, same shows, same foods, same routes, challenge it. Do something new this week. Ask your grandchild how to use a new app. Try a new recipe. Take a different walk. Not because it's trendy, but because it exercises your brain. And a strong mind is the engine behind your independence. Let me say this gently. Getting older does not mean becoming smaller, but it can happen if we don't stay awake to life. Isolation chips away at confidence. Repetition dulls the edges of your thinking. But staying curious, staying connected, that's how you protect the most important part of yourself, the part that still wants more. Now take a breath. We've covered a lot, and we're just getting to the part where everything starts to tie together. The next habits are where physical strength, purpose, and emotional resilience begin to overlap in ways that make independence feel not just possible, but inevitable. There's something no one warns you about when you turn 70. It's not just the wrinkles or the aches or the slower mornings. It's the quiet question that starts to follow you around. Am I still needed? You might not say it out loud, but it's there, in the pause before you speak up. In the moment you offer help and someone says, "It's okay, I've got it." In the silence after your adult kids hang up a little too quickly, already on to the next thing. And that's why this next part matters more than anything else we've talked about so far. Because staying independent isn't just about what you can do. It's about knowing why you still matter. Let me tell you a story. A man named Gerald lived alone after his wife passed. No pets, no kids nearby. He was physically strong, mentally sharp, perfectly capable of living on his own. But every time I spoke to him, there was this stillness, not peace, emptiness. One day I asked, "What's the hardest part about getting older for you?" He said, "I can do everything for myself, but sometimes I wake up and wonder if there's a reason to do anything at all." That's when it hit me. We don't just lose independence when our legs get weak. We lose it when we forget why we're standing in the first place. So here's the fourth key, purpose. And no, I don't mean saving the world. I mean something as simple and profound as knowing that your day still counts. That someone is better off because you got up this morning. That your presence still adds value to your community, to your family, to your own life, Purpose can look like caring for a plant, checking in on a neighbor, writing a letter to someone who hasn't heard your voice in a while. It can be sharing stories with your grandchildren, not a pastime, but to pass down wisdom. It can be volunteering or painting or organizing photos no one else will think to preserve. Because every small act says this: I still create meaning. I still have something to give. And when you have purpose, it fuels everything else. You move more because you have a reason to. You stay sharp because you want to stay involved. You stay connected because you have something to share. Now, there's one last piece we need to talk about, and I say this with all the tenderness I have: resilience. That quiet strength no one sees, but everyone feels. The ability to adapt when life changes. To bounce back from setbacks without losing who you are. See, the truth is, independence doesn't mean life won't challenge you. You might lose someone you love. You might face illness. You might have a fall or a scare. But resilience? That's what gets you back up. That's what lets you say, this won't define me. You've already lived through more than most people can imagine. Wars, loss, rebuilding, reinventing. So don't let a diagnosis or a number or a doctor's chart convince you that you're done growing. You're not done. You're just evolving. There's a woman I admire deeply. Her name is Dolores. She's 85, walks with cane, and has more energy in her eyes than people half her age. I once asked her what keeps her going. She smiled and said, every day I wake up, I ask myself two questions. What am I grateful for? And what can I still do? She didn't say, what did I used to do? Or what can someone else do for me? She said, what can I still do? And that's resilience. When you shift your focus from what's slipping away to what's still within your power, something powerful happens. Your world expands again. You remember that independence is not about proving you don't need anyone. It's about standing tall, sometimes with help, sometimes alone, and saying, I still belong to this life. So take a deep breath. Let that sink in. Because this isn't about pushing yourself to be the person you were at 30 or 40. It's about protecting the freedom to still be you in this moment, at this stage, with everything you've learned and everything you still have to offer. Let's hold on to that for a second. By now, you probably realize something important. Independence isn't about doing everything alone. It's about keeping the parts of life that make you feel alive, the freedom to choose, the ability to move, the presence of purpose, and the strength to keep showing up for yourself day after day. But there's one more thing I want to leave you with, something that ties it all together. It's the quiet, powerful force that too many people underestimate: self-respect. When you respect yourself, you take care of your body, not because someone told you to, but because you know it deserves care. You speak up when something doesn't feel right. You set boundaries, even with the people you love. You take pride in your appearance, not for vanity, but because looking after yourself tells the world and reminds you that you still matter. You may not realize this, but others take their cue from how you treat yourself. When they see you putting in the effort to stay sharp, stay kind, stay curious, it changes how they respond to you. They stop seeing you as someone to manage and start seeing you as someone to admire. And if you've ever felt like people talk over you, like your needs are put second, like your choices are met with soft resistance or quiet dismissal, then hear me now. Your self-respect is your power. The more you stand by it, the more you reclaim the space that is rightfully yours. Maybe that means saying no to things that drain you. Maybe it means saying yes to things that light you up. Maybe it just means standing a little taller when you walk into the room, because you know you've earned the right to be taken seriously, not through force, but through presence. Let's be honest, the world doesn't always make it easy to grow older with dignity. But here's the good news. You don't have to wait for the world to treat you better. You can start by treating yourself better today. Brush your hair, even if no one's coming over. Make a fresh cup of tea instead of reheating the old one. Step outside for a moment of sun and say to yourself, this moment still belongs to me, because it does. You're not just here to take up space. You're here to live, to love, to learn, to leave a legacy of quiet strength that others will carry forward, sometimes without even realizing it. So take everything we've talked about: movement, decision-making, connection, purpose, resilience, and self-respect, and let it guide you, not like a checklist, but like a compass. A quiet voice that says, I'm still here. I still get to choose. I still belong to this world. And if you've been watching and felt a spark of recognition in any of this, maybe a quiet voice in your heart saying, yes, this is what I've been needing to hear, then please take a moment to leave a comment and tell us. We'd love to know what resonated with you. And if you're new here and want more real conversations, ones that speak directly to the heart of living well after 60, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. No fluff, no lectures, just real talk about real life. Because your life still matters. Your voice still matters. You still matter. Here's to holding on to the things that make you feel free. And here's to living your best life at any age.